The nice thing about this rack is that it's low enough that you can't really get anything out of it that's inside there unless you open the tailgate. So if you are at the store or whatever during the daytime, if you lock the tailgate, you pretty much know most of your stuff is mostly safe. So here's how things rode for the most of the trip. We had a bag of firewood always at all times, so that fit nicely right here. In the mornings when we didn't have firewood in this truck, maybe it was in the other truck, we had a trash bag. You can see there's some trash residue, goo down there. But firewood was there. My bag of clothes was there. The toilet slid in nicely here, which worked really well. Easy access. The Max Tracks I have strapped up to the top side, which is not ideal. They fit there nicely, they're out of the way. I actually had like a kitchen table on top of this that fits in there pretty perfectly. But the Max Tracks are kind of inconvenient to get out of there. You can see we used them to try and get unstuck from the mud. But they're kind of annoying to put there, especially when they're muddy and they don't stack as nicely when they're not super clean, and you have to hold them up to get them to strap back up, which is not nearly as fast as it would like to be. So it'd be much better if they were on the side of the rack, but I don't really have space. I've got other stuff there, so I don't know. I need a better solution for that, because there were times when we're like, well, hey, let's try and use this Max Track to get up this, and we didn't. We would try again to get up an obstacle because we didn't even want to get the Max Tracks out because it was inconvenient. This is just a cheap plastic rolly bin, so the wheels on the end are nice because it's easy to get out. So you can just lift the handle, roll it in. Works really well rather than dragging it across. Pretty nice. This had a bunch of random stuff, sleeping things, extra sleeping bag, extra tent, a bunch of stuff that's not in here now. I started to clean up already. The food, dry food and stuff like that was in there for the majority of the trip. So let's get this down. The fridge, I think I showed earlier, and also struggled to get it out with one hand. So, fridge out, opens up, already got all the food out. That worked really, really well to not have to have ice and stuff like that. All the food stayed dry. Didn't have to worry about things being sealed up, water getting in the cheese and all that kind of stuff. Used this a couple times, but since we had a couple of kitchen tables, we didn't need to use that all the time. Back here, we've got a tool bag which fits nicely behind the slide that I built. The camp chair is folded up and sit back there. The power tank and water jug, that's 7 gallons. And then fuel tank, it's a Rotopax diesel, because this is a diesel Duramax Colorado. Those are bolted to that board, and that board is strapped in just so they would not rattle around and rub on each other while driving around. So the board is just wedged in there and strapped with a ratchet strap. But it was nice to have all of the other things actually mounted to that board so they are steady against each other. The water container, we actually didn't get it out the whole time because all I did was use the pump from the shower. That's a hot tap, Julka hot tap. I used that water pump and the battery pack to transfer water from that under pressure into the water port. So this water port is like 3 gallons or so, and it has pressurized water. So we kept this short hose on, had pressurized water whenever we needed it. I think I emptied it, I don't remember. So pressurized water that was drinkable, we could wash things, we could have access to it at all times under pressure. But when that would run empty on the trail after a couple days, would fill it up with the other, transferring it into this one with a pressurized pump. So that worked pretty well. I'm happy with that. The Julka shower, on the other hand, would have been nice. I think we didn't camp with places that had enough fresh water nearby, so I think a shower takes anywhere from 1.5 to 4 gallons of water, depending on how water conscious you are. So we didn't really want to shower unless we were to use our drinking water, unless we were near a stream or something. So we only tried that once, and when we tried it, the batteries were dead in the water temperature controller and the hot tap. So those used D batteries, which we couldn't get easily out on the trail and didn't have extras. So we actually were not able to take a hot shower. We took one frozen shower and that was it. So I hauled this thing around. I think in general it's a high quality unit, it works well, but do not leave your D batteries inside the unit because they will be dead. I think what happens is it's constantly monitoring water pressure and temperature even when it's off. So if you've got batteries in, it's constantly draining them. So I had put them in prior to the trip to try the unit out, and then didn't take them out because I was like, oh, I'm going on the trip in a few weeks, so I'll just leave it in. And when I went to go use it on the trip, it powered up and then immediately died. So you can take a cold shower, but it will never turn on the lock off for the propane or ignite the flame. It'll just sit there and pump freezing cold water at you. So I took a 50-degree shower, which was not fun. Straps are out because we got stuck a couple times. They were in this, which I'm hoping is unlocked, yeah. So this is a swing case, which I don't have specifically for overlanding, but I have for just casually driving my truck daily. Some water shoes. But it's nice. It swings over to where you can get to it. You can also get to it by just opening it while it is in place. It swings out. You can take this whole thing out, which is kind of nice. I like it. It's pretty quiet. I had recovery gear, water gear, shower gear, straps and stuff all in that. So I think that's it. Oh, shovel, which got used a ton. The bathroom tool, mostly. We didn't really use it. We used it to get unstuck out of the mud, or try to get unstuck out of the mud once. And high lift we did not use because we had 2 trucks, thankfully. It's a big, heavy piece to carry around all the time, but if you need it, you gotta have it. So I think that covers it. My CB antenna. The roof rack or the bed rack is a front runner aluminum rack. So my magnetic antenna, I had to build just put a strap of metal in there so that would attach. Here's a different angle of the Rotopacks, the power tank. So we had liquid CO2. We aired up probably 4 different times with 2 trucks. So 8 tires. I don't know, that thing's probably used half of it, maybe a third of it, and then water. So that is the setup and how everything worked. The tent worked great. We left our sleeping bags in it during the trip. Over there, all of the sleeping stuff was inside of the other tote that I had, so that the tent would ride a little bit lower. So with the 1,000 or 1,200 mile drive, I got better fuel mileage driving to Colorado from Chicago. So whenever we were out on the trails, once we got to Colorado, we just left pillows and sleeping gear and everything in it all the time. But that's about it, I think. Probably the truck will look different in future videos because I'm bigger, better, faster, stronger always. So here's some rash on the rock rails. It's hard to tell how much it is because it's mostly mud, but I think that's it. So hope this helps. Some of this stuff is very homemade, mounting this up and making the bed, making the fridge slide, all that stuff is homemade. The mount for the water port to the side of my truck, all the lights and everything is kind of homemade. I put connectors in all of this wiring so that I can still take the rack off and just unhook it rather than having to cut the wires out. That way it can go in and out easier. You know, I've added bed lights and stuff like that, some lights up in here, and then this, since the tent covers the third brake light, I wanted people to be able to be sure that I was braking, so it's some cheap Chinese third brake light. So a lot of them are burnt out already, but at least there's a little bit of something there. But all right, that worked pretty well for 1,400 miles off-road in Colorado for 5 or 6 days. Systems seem to work. There's definitely room for improvement, but hopefully it helps you guys plan in the future, and we'll see how it evolves over time.